Picture this. It is 2 in the morning, January 23rd, 1973.
Okay.
You're asleep in this really peaceful island town just off the coast of Iceland. And out of nowhere, the earth just starts violently trembling.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so you look out your window, and this massive rift has literally torn open right in the middle of your village. Like hot magma is spewing tens of meters into the night sky.
It honestly sounds like, the climax of some disaster film.
Right.
But that was the actual terrifying reality for the residents of Jaime. I mean, within 6 hours, all 5,300 people on that island had to be evacuated.
That is just wild.
Yeah, we're talking about families fleeing onto these fishing boats in the pitch black, just taking whatever they could, literally stuff into their coat pockets before the lava just swallowed their homes, their photo albums.
And higher histories.
Exactly, their entire lives just gone.
It is such an incredibly dramatic starting point, but it perfectly sets the stage for our deep dive today.
Yeah, it really does.
Because today, we are exploring the sources surrounding this book, Message from the Middle of Nowhere by Gunnar Andri Thorisson.
Which is such a fascinating read.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a wild synthesis of like street-smart business strategy mixed with harsh Viking survival mechanics.
Right.
It tracks the author's life from this really poverty-stricken childhood all the way to becoming Iceland's top sales trainer.
And it offers a very unique framework for conquering challenges, by looking at how Icelanders actually process adversity.
Yeah, and the way the author frames trauma in these sources is immediately striking to me.
Oh, totally.
Because while his extended family was fleeing that volcano with basically nothing but the clothes on their backs, the author who was safely living in the capital city of Reykjavik at the time.
Right, he wasn't on the island.
Exactly. He had a drastically different response the very next morning.
Yeah, this is where it gets crazy.
Wait, so his family's life is literally going up in flames, right? And the 6-year-old kid, immediate instinct is market arbitrage.
Market arbitrage at 6 years old.
Yeah. He is strolling around downtown Reykjavik, shouting at pedestrians, selling newspapers with the headline of the disaster just to get pocket money.
It's wild.
He sees this national tragedy and instantly recognizes, oh, this is breaking news, people are desperate for information, and I can provide that supply.
It is a remarkable image, honestly. A child that young instinctively grasping the mechanics of market demand.
Yeah.
But the sources highlight that it wasn't just his ability to sell the papers, It was his understanding of real estate.
Location, location, location.
Exactly. He knew early on that foot traffic is just the lifeblood of commerce.
Right, so he wanted the prime location, which happened to be outside Landsbank and the National Bank.
But there was a bottleneck there.
A major one. A man the author describes as this sort of eccentric gnome-like character named Oli. Oli, the newspaper king.
Newspaper king.
Yeah, and Oli had a total uncontested monopoly on this busy corner. And to a 6-year-old, Oli was this terrifying nemesis.
Right, because Oli threatened to call the police if anyone even encroached on his territory.
Right.
Which brings us to the first real test of this Viking philosophy that we're unpacking today.
Because a normal kid would just, retreat to a quieter street.
Exactly. But he refuses to let intimidation dictate his market position. So he stubbornly keeps showing up, inching closer to the bank, trying to win these tiny little territorial battles.
But the problem is, he quickly realizes he can't win a war of attrition against an established monopoly completely alone.
No, he needs leverage.
And the solution he comes up with is brilliant. So standing nearby on the street was this giant of a man collecting money for the Salvation Army.
Right.
And in the author's mind, which, by the way, is heavily infused with Icelandic folklore, this guy looked like a literal troll.
A literal troll.
Yeah, and standing next to him, Oli the king, was just this angry little gnome.
The visual's so good.
So the 6-year-old walks up to this giant and just asks how the charity collections are going for the day. And when the man admits it'd been pretty slow, the kid pitches a joint venture.
If you look at the underlying mechanics of that move, it is a masterclass in strategic alliances.
Oh, 100%.
He doesn't just ask for help, right? He creates a mutually beneficial incentive structure.
Yes.
He offers the giant a percentage of his newspaper earnings in exchange for physical proximity and protection on that specific street corner.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. It's almost like a scrappy tech startup realizing they can't fight a legacy monopoly head on.
Right.
So they partner with a massive, universally respected institutional player to disrupt the market.
That is exactly what it is.
Because Oli tries to bully the kid again, But the troll simply points out that Ole doesn't own the public sidewalks.
And the dynamic just shifts instantly.
Instantly. The kid sells out of his inventory, the charity gets a significant cut, and that monopoly is permanently broken.
And the core takeaway the author distills from this is just profound. He says, the giant in your path can turn into a gnome if you have a troll on your side.
Wow. If you have a troll on your
Yeah,
side.
it's a complete reframing of how to face obstacles. Because we often think we have to, push the boulder up the hill by ourselves.
Right, just sheer willpower.
But if you lack the power to move a mountain, your first job isn't to get stronger. Your first job is to find something bigger than the mountain to ally with.
That is such a good point. And, that level of strategic thinking in a 6-year-old, it didn't just materialize out of thin air.
No, not at all.
The sources make it very clear that this grit is environmental. It is deeply tied to the extreme geography of Iceland itself.
Oh, Iceland is essentially a pressure cooker for resilience.
Yeah.
And the author's heritage is a perfect case study in these extreme environmental contrasts. Because on his father's side, you have the volcanic Westman Islands down in the south. That area is battered by treacherous seas. It's defined by volcanic rock. And it happens to be home to, over 1 million nesting puffins.
Which is just wild to picture. But then on his mother's side, you have Skagafjörður up in the north.
Right.
And it is this massive, snowy, agricultural valley where horses actually outnumber human beings.
By a lot, probably.
Yeah. And because of Iceland's really high latitude, during the summer months, the sun literally never sets.
It's just daylight all the time.
Exactly. The sources describe them out there cutting hay and working the farm deep into the night, just in this constant, relentless race against the shifting weather.
And that kind of environment breeds a very specific utilitarian brand of stoicism. The author spent his summers in that valley with his grandmother, and she passed down this rural wisdom that honestly doubles as high-level business philosophy.
Right, what did she teach him?
Well, for instance, she taught him the old rule that you are not a true horseman until you've been violently thrown off your horse at least once.
I love that. And she also drilled into him that you never, ever switch horses in the middle of a river.
Oh, think about the implications of that for modern entrepreneurship.
Right.
Because getting thrown off the horse isn't an accident, you know. It's a prerequisite for mastery. It is the absolute necessity of failure.
Yeah.
And that river analogy is even more potent today.
It's the ultimate warning against this modern pivot culture we see constantly.
Oh, yes.
Like everyone wants to pivot their business model or change their strategy the second things get tough or, slightly uncomfortable.
Right.
But if you pivot while you're still in the rapids, you just drown.
You just drown. Exactly.
You have to commit to the horse you rode in on and see the strategy through to the opposite bank before you reevaluate.
I'd take it a step further, honestly. Because it wasn't just the landscape forging this mindset, it was the sociological reality of the people living on it.
The women, especially.
The women in his family were an absolute force of nature. And that was by necessity.
Right.
His grandmother, on his mother's side, was literally born in a traditional dirt and turf house.
Wow. A turf house.
Yeah. Yet she evolved alongside the rapidly modernizing country, and eventually she founded these influential women's coalitions in the city.
That is incredible. And his great-grandmother on his father's side was the sole provider for 6 boys, working as a deckhand on a commercial fishing boat.
Which was incredibly dangerous work.
So dangerous.
Yeah.
But that relentless natural environment where men were just constantly lost to the freezing ocean, it created a massive vacuum on land.
And that vacuum is explained by this ancient Icelandic proverb that they mention, the sea giveth, the sea taketh away.
Right.
Generations of men facing a high probability of death on the ocean force Icelandic women to become the ultimate, operational managers of the society.
Yeah, they had to run the farms, manage the local economies, raise the next generation entirely on their own while the men were at sea.
Which completely explains how Iceland became the first country in the world to democratically elect a female president.
Vigdis Finnbogadóttir, right, back in 1980.
Exactly. The entire culture is built on this bedrock of tough, supremely capable women just managing chaos.
It really is. But, physical survival against the weather and the sea, that's only half the equation in these sources.
Yeah, that's true.
To really grasp the Icelandic mindset, you have to understand how they navigate their psychological landscape, too.
The folklore.
The folklore. It isn't just a collection of quaint bedtime stories for tourists, It is a functional framework woven into how they process reality.
It is everywhere in the text. The author points out a specific street Alfalsvigger, which translates to Elf Hill Road,
Elf Hill Road, I love that.
and a construction project there was inexplicably plagued by broken machinery and constant delays.
Just bad luck after bad luck.
But the local consensus wasn't bad engineering, right? They genuinely believed they were angering a family of hidden elves living in a knoll on the site.
So what do?
They literally just detoured the entire road around the knoll.
That is so funny.
I mean, the elves essentially have official domicile protection in the town planning.
That's amazing. You see the same thing with the geography there. Like, Drangy Island is this massive, imposing rock fortress out in the bay.
Right.
And the cultural myth dictates that it was formed when two night trolls and their cow were caught by the lethal rays of the morning sun and permanently petrified into stone.
Petrified trolls.
Yeah. But the one that really stands out to me is Grilla and the Christmas cat.
Oh my gosh, Grilla.
So Grilla is this terrifying mountainous troll who comes down to steal children who have been disobedient.
Naturally.
And her pet is a giant house cat that literally eats children who don't receive at least one new piece of clothing for Christmas.
Which is terrifying.
It's so terrifying.
Yeah.
But looking at it objectively, it is a brutally effective way to ensure the local textile industry booms every single December.
The psychological utility of these myths is what's truly fascinating to me.
How so?
Well, before modern behavioral science, cultures had to invent boogeymen to scare themselves into necessary action or inaction.
That's right.
They are basically ancient technologies of self-discipline. So for centuries, the threat of the Christmas cat, or Grilla, was a practical tool to enforce a rigid work ethic and societal cooperation.
Because in that environment, a single lazy season meant the whole village starved.
Exactly.
Okay, I hear you on the discipline part, but isn't there a severe dark side to this?
What do you mean?
Well, if you wire an entire culture from birth to be terrified of a giant cat eating them for stepping out of line, doesn't that just create a generation of incredibly anxious adults who are paralyzed by the fear of taking risks?
See, that is the exact pivot the author makes, and it's a brilliant observation.
Okay, so he addresses it.
Yes, because as children, these stories instill necessary boundaries. But as we grow into adults, we sort of internalize the mechanism of the folklore, and we start inventing new, paralyzing boogeymen.
Ah, I see.
We replace the literal trolls with what the author terms dream thieves.
Dream thieves. So the people who try to, quote-unquote, protect us from disappointment by discouraging our ambitions.
Precisely. Or it's even our own internal worry about what society will think, or just the fear of looking foolish.
Yeah.
We develop the state of learned hopelessness, and the author highlights a really fascinating linguistic shift to prove this. He points out that when children hear the word maybe, their brain instantly translates it to yes.
Oh, 100%. My kids do that all the time.
Right, but when adults hear the word maybe, their conditioned response instantly translates it to no.
Wow. We get so conditioned to expect the troll to eat us that we just stop walking outside.
Exactly.
So the folklore teaches you what to fear, but it definitely doesn't give you a practical map for how to succeed once you ignore that fear.
No, it doesn't.
So for that, the author had to rely on this highly unconventional education system built by his grandmother.
And her curriculum was intense.
So intense.
It was a strict regimen for both the brain and the body. Like, we're talking daily meals of svi, which is a smoked sheep's head cut completely in half. And harifisker, which is wind-dried fish that you literally have to tear apart with your teeth.
And while he's eating this sheep's head, he is required to read constantly.
Yes.
She had him blending the magical realism of these Icelandic folktales with the really rigid, practical optimism of American self-help books.
Specifically, Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking.
Right. And added that the mandatory daily games of chess.
Oh, chess was huge.
Because his grandparents were totally obsessed with Bobby Fischer, the American chess prodigy.
Who defeated Boris Spassky in Reykjavik back in 1972.
Exactly. Fischer actually became an Icelandic citizen later in life and is buried there.
Wow.
But chess taught the author this brutal logic, that you have to plan 10 moves ahead, right? And that no game is ever truly over until the final lethal strike is made.
That blend of positive thinking, strategic foresight, and grueling physical labor, it really set the stage for a massive professional epiphany when he was 12 years old.
Oh, the grocery store story.
Yes. So he's working this punishing job delivering groceries on a heavy black bicycle, trudging through biting frost and snow every day.
Sounds miserable.
Right. And one afternoon, he's stocking the meat counter, and he watches this Sharply dressed salesmen strut into the store to pitch toilet paper to the gruff store manager.
Which sounds like a totally mundane interaction, but the sources frame it as an absolute masterclass in overcoming objections.
It really is.
Because the manager immediately pushes back,
Right.
right? He complains that the salesman's toilet paper has a higher sticker price per roll than the store's standard brand.
Yep.
Now, a normal salesman would try to argue the price or offer a discount or something.
Right, that's the standard move.
But this guy doesn't say a single word. He just grabs one of his rolls and slams it down onto the metal meat scale right in front of the 12-year-old kid.
So good.
And the scale instantly proves his roll is significantly heavier and denser than the standard roll.
Let's look at why that worked so perfectly, though.
Okay.
The salesman abruptly changed the manager's default metric. The manager was focused entirely on price per roll. But the salesman introduced a completely undeniable physical metric density and weight.
Which short-circuited the standard pricing objection.
Exactly. The quantity and quality completely outweighed the raw sticker price.
And the manager instantly places a huge order.
Ooh.
And for the 12-year-old author, watching that heavy roll hit the meat scale was a total light bulb moment.
He realized that sales wasn't just talking.
Right. It was an art form. It was a tangible, learnable skill involving human psychology. He decided right then and there that someday he was going to open a school to teach this.
However, having that dream and, being fueled by Norton Vincent Peale's positive attitude proved to be completely insufficient on its own.
Which is the crazy part.
Right, because despite all his accumulated grit like working for free on farms, saving every penny to buy a high-end motorbike in cash at age 14, he hits a brick wall at age 17.
Yeah, he takes a job as a door-to-door meat salesman, and he fails spectacularly.
Just miserably. He walks for miles and doesn't sell a single item.
But how does someone with that much drive, who understands market arbitrage at age 6, just completely fail?
Because motivation without direction is a liability.
A liability.
Yeah. The author introduces one of the most vital concepts in the book right here, the danger of the motivated fool.
The motivated fool.
He explains that you can have all the positive attitude in the world, you can have a flawless work ethic, but if you do not possess a map of where you are and a clear route to where you are going, you are just walking in circles.
You are quite literally stranded in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
I mean, how many times have you or I started a Monday morning completely hyped up, overly caffeinated, ready to absolutely conquer the week?
Oh, all the time.
But because we didn't actually block out our calendar or map our priorities, we just spent 8 hours frantically answering low-level emails.
And you feel exhausted, but you went absolutely nowhere.
Exactly. That is the modern motivated fool.
That perfectly maps to his concept. A positive attitude is an incredible engine, but an engine is completely useless without a steering wheel and a map.
Yeah.
So his solution to failing as a meat salesman wasn't to just dig deep and try harder. His solution was to stop walking in circles and go seek out the map.
And he found that map by making a massive investment in his own education.
Right.
At 17, he paid for an incredibly expensive, formal Dale Carnegie seminar.
Which was a big deal.
Huge deal. He learned the actual rules of the game. He learned how to weaponize all that Icelandic grit and positive attitude by explicitly mapping out his goals.
He learned to apply the lesson of the meat scale to his own life, too.
So.
That quality and depth of knowledge resonate much longer than just showing up and trying to be the cheapest or the loudest person in the room.
Oh, that is so true. So if we pull all these threads together for the listener, the framework for success that emerges from this Viking philosophy is just highly actionable.
It really is.
First, you need the raw environmental grit to get back on the horse when you inevitably fail.
Right.
Second, you need the strategic creativity to look at the board differently, like finding a troll to defeat a monopoly.
Absolutely.
Third, you must actively identify and ignore the adult dream thieves that try to scare you into inaction.
The learned hopelessness.
Exactly. And finally, you cannot rely purely on being motivated. You must discipline yourself to acquire the map.
And the beauty of this framework is that it applies to absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
The author argues that life, at its core, is constantly about selling an idea.
That makes a lot of sense.
You are selling a new project timeline to your boss. You are selling a vacation destination to your spouse. You are selling the concept of eating vegetables to your kids.
Or Most importantly, you are selling the idea of your own future potential to yourself.
Exactly. It requires a profound shift in how we view these interactions. Business, negotiations, money, these things aren't inherently greedy or frightening.
Right.
They are completely neutral tools waiting to be directed by whoever happens to hold the map.
And the author makes a really brilliant observation about this neutrality.
Oh, about the kids.
Yes. He says that children are actually the greatest negotiators on Earth.
It's so true.
Think about it. They are entirely genuine. They wait for the perfect psychological opportunity to strike, usually when you're super tired.
Yep.
They never give up, and above all, they do not take rejection personally. When you tell a kid no, their brain doesn't process it as a permanent failure. They just hear, not yet.
Because they haven't yet internalized the boogeyman.
Exactly.
They haven't learned the hopelessness that adults carry into every single negotiation.
Which brings us to the end of our journey today, through the fire, the ice, and the folklore of the Viking mindset.
It's been quite a ride.
It really has. We've talked a lot today about how ancient Icelanders used folklore, trolls, elves, the Christmas cat, as a technology to enforce discipline and societal cooperation.
Yeah.
It kept them alive, but it also kept them confined to very specific behaviors. So I want to leave you with a question to mull over as you go about your week. If ancient folklore was simply the algorithm they used to program their society, what modern algorithms or societal narratives are you currently using to scare yourself out of taking risks?
That's a great question.
What is your modern Christmas cat, and is it actually keeping you safe, or is it just a ghost keeping you from drawing your own map?